The past doesn't define you, your present does. It's okay to create a vision of the future because it affects your behavior in the now. But don't dwell on the past mistakes. Learn from them and focus on these lessons for the moment. That's where change can really happen. This is a quote by Julian Roberts. Today I have the opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Riley Jacobowski, and I will be telling you about myself. I want to first by telling you off my name. My name is Riley James Jacobowski, my full name. My parents chose my first name because they wanted to be the same letter as my dad's first name, so we would have the same initials, RJ. But they didn't really like the Robert Jr. Yeah, my mom said no. Now, for my middle name is actually James is what I chose. I wanted to keep the initials the same. My dad's RJJ Jacobowski, and I wanted to be the same. So I decided to keep the name, but I chose James because that was my uncle's name. My uncle spent a lot of time with me in my childhood. My aunt babysat me while my parents were at work, so I was at their house majority of the time. But you might wonder why I chose my middle name, since most people don't get to choose their own names. Well, this is because when I was born, my name was Riley Leash Jacobowski, and I just never really felt this name fit me. From a young age, I didn't really feel like the gender that assigned me at birth was the same that it is now. So on Tuesday, September 17, 2002, I was born around 8 a.m. in a Princeton Hospital in Princeton, New Jersey. I was labeled by the doctors as a female. That definitely did not fit me. Later come to find out that I'm actually female to male transgender. The hospital I was born in was very close to my first home in Ewing, New Jersey. This is where my family chose to live because it was close to my mom's old job and less than 20 minutes away from her family. But when I was almost 5 years old, my sister was on the way. They felt that this house was just not big enough for all four of us. So they decided to move back to where my dad grew up, in Audubon. Most of his family lived right around here, if not within 20-30 minutes, so he felt that this was going to be a good fit for our family, and it was also very close to his old job. So I was in Audubon from the age of about 5 until about 17 years old. A couple years later, after I first moved into the house, I was around 11 years old and my parents split up. This is when my mom moved over to Oakland. My parents did not want to be in the same house anymore, as makes sense, they were divorced, but my mom did not want to go far from my dad, considering that she wanted me to be able to see and my sister, both of them at the same time. So, but she also needed to get a little bit away from him since she didn't want to be too close to him anymore. One of the things that I remember as a child is my Ewing house. Well, more specifically, my neighbor's house. I remember going there after school, or after daycare, and she would give me pretzel rods in her kitchen. And I remember her house a lot more than I remember mine, but since they were in the same area next to each other, they were pretty similar, and that's one of the only reasons why I can actually remember what my house looks like. Another thing I remember as a child is my favorite childhood hero. My favorite childhood hero was Rebecca Buschelhoff. Now, this seems like a very odd or unusual kid hero because it's just a person's name. But really, Rebecca was a young girl who was transgender. When she was born, she was male, but she soon found out that she was actually female. I actually met her around the age of 8 or 9. We actually went to summer camp together. And so I kind of grew up with her representation in my life and kind of drew into it a little bit and thought how amazing it was that, that she could be happy and that could live her full self, and just be able to be happy and her parents accept her for it. We also came from the same Lutheran background as to why we were at church camp together. So I just thought it was amazing to have some sort of representation in my life. Growing up, I had many jobs. I first started around 11 working as a babysitter, cleaned houses, organized them. I also worked with the program called Community Rocks, formerly known as Studio Lulu, where I had so many different jobs and opportunities working with her. Community Rocks is a studio where you get to make your own kind of express yourself for kids. I would express myself through singing, dancing, all different kind of ways, art. So when I worked there, I would run birthday parties, open mic nights. I was also a summer camp counselor there, and I also attended events where I would run booths like arts and crafts booths and merchandise booths. My first official job was at St. Mark's Nursery School. I was an assistant teacher. Since at the time I was only 16, I wasn't allowed to be left alone with the kids. So it was a summer job, and St. Mark's is actually the church that I was going to when I started high school. So I kind of had that connection to get myself in to the job. But since I was only 16 and you couldn't be alone with the kids in the classroom at that time, they let me go. Shortly after that, my best friend was working at McDonald's, so I decided that nowhere else would hire me, so that I would work at McDonald's. I spent the last 2.5 years there, and it kind of was a good fit for me for a while. I kind of just thrived in the environment. I started as a crew member and I worked my way up, crew trainer, manager, and then eventually actually became the second assistant manager. And I was actually moving towards being the assistant manager and a store manager of one of the stores in my corporate. But after a while, I just kind of realized how bad it was and how much it was affecting my physical and mental health. I wasn't sleeping. I was feeling sick almost every day, and I was just overworking myself and not giving me any time for myself. So I kind of had to take a step back, and then when that didn't work, I just had to leave the job altogether to just try to get a new start. So I now have a new job at Healing Legacy Center. It's a mental health facility and a rehab. It's a great change for me, and it gives me time to focus on myself, and it also gets me to have that same interaction with clients that I would have, with customer service at McDonald's. When I first worked at McDonald's, though, bring it back, it's where I met my wife, Aspen, and we kind of, from the start, were very good friends and just kind of grew from there. And now we were married on December 13th in their childhood home. Another major part of my life is my school life. I go to Rowan College of South Jersey, and I am an inclusive education major. And I plan to hopefully continue my college experience after finishing this program, but I also want to get some experience in a school. Ultimately, my goal would be to be a special education teacher, start in an elementary school or a middle school, and kind of from there decide if I want to become a high school special ed teacher or maybe follow my path as a social worker. Go from there. But ultimately, I just want to be happy in anything that I do. Yeah. So this is me. I am Riley James Jakubowski. I am a FTM transgender person. I'm employed at Legacy Healing Center. I'm a student at Rowan College of South Jersey. But none of these things will ever stop me or is stopping me from my goal and my career and my happiness.